And we're going to get into kind of our last discussion. Our hang jury, not hung jury.
Hang,
Yeah,
jury.
none of us will have a rope around our neck. Well, we might after this story. But this week's topic is hitting a little close to home, especially if you're listening in the EU, which for
Hi.
our yeah, Patrice is an EU member. Our British listeners are not, so they can say a big thank you to Brexit. At WWDC earlier this month, Apple unveiled a completely new rebuilt Siri that we may have talked about,
Yep.
a proper AI assistant that understands your context, reads your messages, knows your calendar, works across your files, and it's coming to iPhones, Macs, iPads, and who knows what else this fall. Except, except if you're in the EU, where you have the Europe Digital Market Act, aka the DMA, which also shares his name with the bad guy from a season of Star Trek Discovery.
That's true, yes. I didn't
Yes,
even make that
which
connection.
this should surprise nobody. Apple in the EU are not getting along over the DMA, and well, you're not getting it. China's not getting it for another set of reasons, but we won't be talking about that. So I don't think we're going to be as uniform as possible as people think on this. But, you know, are we talking about some legitimate concerns on both sides? Or are we just talking about bureaucratic BS? Let's discuss. We'll start with the EU.
Okay, I'll start with the EU then. It's an interesting topic. I mean, I kind of thought that would be fun to discuss because there is multiple sides to that. And I mean, as an EU citizen, I understand what the EU wants to do. I'm just not sure this is the right way of doing it, which, in politics is anyway always the problem. So basically, Apple is saying, we talk to the EU, like imagine Apple as if they were a developer in their own app store. And they're like, the developer comes to Apple and says, hey, like I have this thing here, but it's breaking the rules. Can I get an extra year and a half to basically make it compliant, but ship it now? And the EU or Apple, no, actually the EU in this case said to Apple, no, you can ship something compliant or you don't ship it at all, which is also what Apple usually tells the developers. And the same way as Apple handles it with their developers, you don't get any final saying, final ruling on does it follow the rules or does it break them until you actually ship it, until you're ready. It's the same thing Apple does. If you go to Apple and say, I have this really cool idea, but I'm not sure it follows the rules, and Apple says, well, good luck. Come back once you've built it and submitted it to the App Store for review, and then we'll tell you whether we actually allow it or not. And it's the same thing with the EU here. So there's a lot of finger pointing. The EU is saying, well, it's all Apple, and Apple is saying, well, it's all the EU. I think, personally, I'm kind of on the EU side. I said implementation is like, there's better ways of doing that, but I think having a lock-in to Apple Siri, as good as it is, hopefully, I mean, so far it's actually pretty good. I would like to have more opportunity for competition around the world to be on equal footing, because the access to data, and that's Apple's sticking point, the access to data that Apple has with their models, and Google actually, well, Google doesn't get access, but it's Google's models that are used, nobody else can get. So if let's say us together, we were to create a new AI startup company, we're going to build the best agent ever, it would not be able to do, not at all be able to do what Siri AI does, because we don't have the hooks into the system. And I think it's not, Apple's concern is Apple's concern is data privacy and like should like, I don't know, OpenAI get access to your data, but I personally think that is my decision as a consumer. If I decide that I want to give my favorite AI company, let's call it Hangout AI, I want to give Hangout AI full access to all the data I have, then that should be my decision and not Apple's. That's my opinion about this.
But you can do that, Patrice. You just don't use Apple stuff, and everybody will have your data.
No, that's exactly, you can't. You wouldn't have access to the same level of information. Like, how do you get to your what is on screen on your device? How do you get to the calendars? How do you get to files that are in the system? There's so much information in your phone that you would not be able to get to, especially on a mobile device.
Right, but just use somebody else's system. I mean,
but which?
If Apple's, which? I mean,
Which? There's nothing else.
The industry has kind of dug themselves in this hole because they have shared so much information, not told us about it, not told us what they were doing, and then using it, depending on your point of view, using it against us, or at least using it for their benefit.
Yeah.
And so, if Apple's focus on privacy, if you aren't privacy focused and you don't care, then just go and buy a Windows box or some other box, use that as your, and then you can do anything you want with it. But, I mean, I still see this as a privacy thing. And I hear what you're saying about competition, but at the same time, okay, it just makes the competition a little tougher. But for the EU to say that some company in I don't know, Taiwan, should have the same access to my data as the people that are manufacturing and using manufacturing and developing the platform, I choose. Note the word choose. No.
But
I choose Apple.
But is it a choice?
It is it's a choice for me to use Apple.
Okay, but in reality, you only have two options, right now. You have Apple and you have Google. Those are the only two options on the market, to be honest. There is really no third left.
Microsoft. And
Microsoft does not do mobile devices anymore. On mobile, you're done. Like, it's Apple or it's Google.
Okay. Well, that's fair, but that's also the market has spoken. And the market has, and so now you have a choice, and I grant you, but Android, the Android people, we laugh at them as Apple people because they are, seem to be not nearly as concerned. They seem to be okay with sharing all this stuff, and so fine, go, all you Android people, and I really mean this, go and live your life the way you wish to live it. But why are you trying to step over here and force the rest of us to live your way?
Okay, but now I want to use Hangout AI. And, okay, I can't do that on Apple because Apple doesn't give me the data. Google the same way, actually. Google does not give you full access to your data either. So I have to create my own phone. What are the costs and also the chances that I will be able to succeed in business with that? Competing against an Apple and a Google. Like, do you think we would have any chance in hell to do that?
Probably not, but on the other hand, I can name, but I can name you 6 things that, that very specialty devices that, you people would be hard pressed to compete with.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, it's a cost benefit. Is my privacy worth having everybody in the world able to compete with Apple?
Yeah, but vendor lock-in is a real thing, right? At some point, it is very hard or near impossible to switch away from.
True, but you still do have choices. Or a choice.
You do. Not using it at all, right? That is always an option.
Yeah.
Like, I can be like, I'm not going to do a smartphone. Okay.
Yep.
I can do that.
You can do a burner.
Yeah, but that's what the EU's argument is. They're saying both Apple and Google, both of them are under the DMA for a reason, because they're so big and so powerful that the lock-in effect that they create by their size is so strong that if nobody like puts in some limits at least, it will not, like, there is simply no space for any kind of competition anymore. Like nobody, and it goes beyond just the hardware, right? Because this goes into the software space, this goes into AI space. Like it's basically anything you want to do that is somewhat even connected to a phone, and the phones are our life today. It's basically impossible, because if Apple does it, then everybody else is out. And that's the EU's point. As I said, I'm not agreeing with how it's implemented. But I think in this case, I think they have a point to say, if I decide as a customer that I want to give Google, for example, let's pick the other one, the other big one. I want to give Google all my data, but I want to use my iPhone, then I should be able to do so. That's my choice and not Apple's to make.
I guess I see it as just a cost benefit thing that, you know, because you open the door for what a door is a door for everybody.
Yes, of course.
And that's where the problem is. And so what you're advocating for is you're advocating for sharing your data, my data, Ben's data, Marty's data, Dave's data, you know,
no,
with
because
anybody.
because it's my choice which AI vendor I want to use. If I say I want to use OpenAI, I give them all my data, then I give them all my data. If I say I want to use Apple, then I give Apple all my data. Like it's fine. But it should be my choice, and it should be possible to make that choice. And the option right now you have is you have an iPhone, so it's Apple. If you don't want it, buy a different phone, or don't use a phone at all. That is a choice, but it's a very different choice.
Okay, I don't see it that way. I mean, because if I want to use ChatGPT on my phone, I have the option to do it through their app. And so now,
but it doesn't give the same level of access. It doesn't give the same agents. It doesn't give the same integration into photos. It doesn't, like, all the things that make it worth on the Apple side are simply not even possible. It's not that they're harder or whatever, or different or whatever. No, they're simply not possible.
We're going round and round.
Yes.
It's just it all comes down to
that's a hang jury, right? Going round and round.
Yeah, it all comes down to access.
Yes.
Somebody else try to talk some sense into Patrice. Yeah, I'm not getting it anymore.
Please.